The best way to guarantee that you won't throw away a food item is to make sure that it just never comes home with you. But because we need to eat, that's unrealistic. Usually I will either go to the grocery store or Instacart it if it's on a day that I'm really busy. I get my food and then it goes in my refrigerator. And unfortunately, most of the time, that's where the story ends. The food goes in my refrigerator and it never comes out until it is way past the expiration date. And I know that it is such a first world problem to have an excess of food that we can so easily forget about or part ways with. I need to stop doing this, and if you are struggling with this, then let's work together on making this year a better year and living more sustainably by throwing away less food. I've come up with a few tips to try to help you waste less food, and so far they've been working pretty well for me. One of the best tips that I can give you is to cook the food that you bring home from the grocery store on the same day on which you buy it. And the reason for that is because you are less likely to forget it if it's fresh in your mind. For example, let's say you buy a pack of chicken at the grocery store. It is a better idea to cook all of the chicken on that same day and then just put it in the freezer once it's cooked, and then you can thaw it out as needed instead of just letting the chicken packet sit in your fridge and build up the bacteria over time. Unless you have purchased groceries for a specific occasion, the more days that an item sits in your fridge, the less likely that you are to actually consume it. And eventually, if an item sits in your refrigerator for too long, it will either end up getting thrown away or it will end up giving you food poisoning. So neither of those are good endings, so try to use your items as soon as you can to when you bought them. Even though I really don't like cooking, some days the inspiration strikes, and on that particular day I want to eat a good home-cooked meal. So when this happens, I go on Instacart and I place my order for all of the ingredients that I need for that recipe. And then the ingredients arrive at my doorstep. And then as I'm putting away my groceries, I leave out all of the ingredients that I need to make that recipe. And I like to think of this as a more affordable version of meal kits like HelloFresh, because even though I still have to cook it, I'm not locked into cooking for 4 consecutive nights in 1 week. And also it is more affordable because I can end up having leftovers. So even though I don't like to meal prep, this is one way in which I can trick myself into having leftovers, and then that is one less day that I have to worry about feeding myself. Now let's move on to tip number 3, which is salad kits. I really enjoy eating salads that are full of flavor and full of a diverse group of vegetables. But unfortunately, almost every single time that I buy leafy green things at the grocery store, like lettuce, arugula, spinach, they always go bad before I can use them, and I just need to start being honest with myself. I am not the kind of person who is going to prioritize remembering that I have lettuce in my fridge. I am not the kind of person who is very likely to take the time out of her day to cut up lettuce and then cut up a bunch of other vegetables and leafy things to make a very delicious salad. If I end up making something that looks like a salad at home by myself, it is literally going to be flavorless lettuce, and that's kind of boring, so no wonder I always forget about the lettuce. So instead, now I make sure to always have salad kits in my refrigerator. Salad kits are so convenient because they're already pre-washed, and there are so many salad kits out there. So regardless of what your nutritional preferences are, unless you are a hater of lettuce, there is a salad kit out there for you. And one of the beautiful things about salad kits is that even if you don't find your perfect salad kit out there, you can make modifications. So for example, unless I'm eating pizza, I don't like cheese, and I definitely don't want cheese on my salad. So what I do is I take the cheese that's packaged individually and I put it aside in the refrigerator, and then someone else can use it. And I don't need to have it in my salad if I don't want to. Unfortunately, I'd be lying if I said that I've never forgotten about a salad kit in my refrigerator. But one habit that I've developed in the past couple of months is now I organize the salad kits in my fridge. So the salad kits that are closest to the door are the ones that are expiring the soonest. And then the ones that are further from the door, closer to the back, are the ones that are expiring later. And by organizing my salad kits, I can make sure that I am not forgetting about them, and I'm not accidentally eating one that is expiring later than another one in my fridge. This brings me to tip number 4, which is always look at the expiration dates before buying anything, because the closer you are to the expiration date when you are buying something, especially if you know you're not going to consume it that day, then the more likely that you are to end up throwing it away if you don't eat it by the expiration date. So by looking at the expiration date, you can make sure that you are saving money by not buying things that you will end up throwing away, and you are also making sure that you are buying the freshest food available. If you're a busy person who doesn't like to cook and likes to make the most out of their grocery shopping experiences, then tip number 5 is just for you, and that is to include some non-perishable food items in your grocery shopping endeavors. Things like canned items like beans and tuna and canned soups can all be great additions to your diet as long as you're looking into the ingredients and making sure that you can pronounce every single ingredient on the label. If you see an ingredient item that you can't pronounce, then it's a better idea to just put that item back on the shelf, because unless you know what it's going to do for your body, it's probably a good idea to avoid that item. Whenever possible, I opt for a low sodium item, whether it's beans or my favorite, which is Amy's lentil soup. I always make sure that I get the low sodium variety, because in the United States there is definitely no shortage of sodium in most people's diet. I'll keep it very brief, but basically what happens when you eat too much sodium is your body holds onto water more, which increases your blood pressure, and increased blood pressure over time can lead to heart problems. Now on to tip number 6. Even though I don't frequently like to go to the grocery store because it is so convenient to just place an Instacart order and have my food delivered, when I do go to the grocery store, I like to take a Marie Kondo approach to my grocery shopping. And what I mean by that is I will pick up a food item and I will ask myself, does this spark me joy? For example, one of my favorite foods to buy at the grocery store is mangoes. I love mangoes and I love finding the perfect mango. And when I pick up that perfect mango, I definitely feel like it sparks joy. And this is definitely a matter of personal preference, but if I pick up something that I am not looking forward to eating, then more than likely I am going to put it in a drawer in my fridge or in a cabinet and never look at it again, and then that is just going to turn into food waste. So always ask yourself, am I excited to eat this? Now it's time for tip number 7, which is just holding yourself accountable. If you mindfully buy things at the grocery store, especially if you get to choose them based on their expiration dates, then you will know what's in your fridge and you will have a good idea of when it expires. So even though I know that expiration dates are not set in stone and things might be good for a couple of days following the expiration date, if I know that there is something in my refrigerator that is set to expire according to the manufacturer in the next 24 hours, then we are not allowed to eat out. We are not allowed to get takeout. We are not allowed to get food delivery. We are not allowed to eat anything else until that item is consumed. Being able to hold yourself accountable is a very difficult thing to do, but it is such an important life skill. So this is one good place in which you can exercise your accountability muscle. If you've liked this video so far, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, as it truly helps tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. And now on to tip number 8. If you are a busy person, by incorporating frozen food meals into your life, you can save yourself a lot of time and eat some really delicious food. But I have to give you a few words of caution on this, because there are some really scary frozen foods out there with a really long ingredients list full of things that are hard to pronounce. So always read the ingredients list if you are planning on buying a frozen food item. Now on to tip number 9. We're almost done, so thank you for sticking with me. But tip number 9 is to repurpose your leftovers if you are not excited to eat them. Two of my favorite ways to repurpose leftovers are making stir fry and also making scrambles, and in either of these options I am able to give new life to food that maybe I wasn't as excited about the first time around. And I love having the second chance to improve food and make it more enjoyable. I also like to repurpose overripe bananas by making banana bread. So if you struggle with forgetting about your bananas or having your bananas go ripe faster than you can eat them, then banana bread is a great and delicious option to make sure that your bananas are put to good use. And now tip number 10 is about what to do when you've brought home a food item and a few days later you realize that you're probably not going to eat it. You can either 1, let the cantaloupe sit on your counter and stare at it every day until it goes bad, or 2, call a friend and ask, hey, do you want my extra cantaloupe that I'm not going to eat? I'm just using cantaloupe as an example because this happened to me recently. And maybe your friend wants a cantaloupe, I don't know. Or option number 3, if you have a local wildlife rehabilitation center in your city, you can donate your unwanted fresh produce to them, and then you will have the satisfaction of knowing that your fresh produce didn't go bad in your home and instead it went to feeding animals in need. And as a disclaimer to that, if the produce item is not in a good condition to where you would give it to a friend, then please don't give it to your local wildlife center because they don't need to throw it away just because you didn't want to. I hope you found these 10 tips to be helpful, and hopefully all together we can have a better environmental impact. And if you had a favorite tip, or if you have any other tips that maybe I didn't mention during this video, then please let me know in the comments below.